Blessings, BookTube. It's March, and I am finally finishing the last of my classic round the world readings from last year's reading challenge, which is The Cloud Dream of the Nine, a Korean novel set in Tang era China. The hero, the male anyway, character Soyu, Yang Soyu, later General Yang Soyu, um, has a sort of a frame story interaction with these fairies, these eight fairies. So the nine is him and the eight, right? And it's going to be all about his getting him married off. So one thing that Victorian literature has in common, right, with the old stories of the Pillow Books and Tale of Genji and these marriage intrigues are a lot of fun. Let's just focus to start with on Chung Yi. So Chung Yi, Chung is the daughter of Justice Yi Chung, and so Yi is the daughter of Justice Chung. Um, Meets Soyu when the justice hosts him in his house, and they sort of contract. They fall in love. There's various shenanigans with cross-dressing and all kinds of things, but basically they get betrothed. There's some problems with uh, bridal exchange of presents, and then a whole book passes sort of in between, and he's off fighting in Tibet. And now it's towards the end of the book, and we pick her back up when she's at court, and the empress, the dowager empress, is going to adopt her because the empress wants to marry her daughter, the princess, off to Yang Soyu, but he objects that he already has, um, an obligation to Chung Yi. So then now the emperor then decided the order of oh, excuse me. Um, the emperor wrote the following in large characters with his own hand. I approve of the divine wish of Her Majesty the Empress Dowager and record Chung Si to be her adopted daughter. Her name is Princess Yong Yang or Blossom. So you can see that these characters, like in Russian novels, they're going to end up having several um, names. Don't worry, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to revert to referring to them only by their one word English names, which would be things like Blossom, Cloud, that kind of thing. Now, when he had written and stamped it with a pair of palace seals and gave it to Chung Si, he ordered the palace maids to dress her in royal robes. And Chung Si descended from the dais and expressed her thanks. Now the emperor then decided the order of precedence between Princess Orchid and Princess Blossom. So Princess Orchid is the one the Empress Dowager wants to marry off to Yang Suyi. Now Blossom was a year the senior of Nanyang, but she would not have thought of taking precedence of her. And so there's some more names there. The Empress said, Princess Blossom is now my daughter, for the eldest to be first, and the younger second is the proper order. There's no readjusting the place between brothers and sisters. Blossom bowed low, touching her brows to the ground, and said, the order appointed pertains only to the future. Why should we not ignore it today? And the Dowager said, and then there's all these kinds of, like in a lot of Chinese literature at least, appeals to the past and tradition and precedent. So the Dowager said, in the time of the spring and autumn classic, the wife of Chochi, although the daughter of the Princess Chin Moon, gave up her place to the first wife who was chosen, much more should my daughter, as you are her elder sister, give up without a question. So now we have a Chochi, we have our original Chungchi, and this is not to be confused with the maid Chinchi, or Phoenix, who's also going to be one of the brides. So you can see that this gets quite complicated. Because we're going to deal with 8 wives, right? or 2 wives and 6 concubines. All right, so for my organizing principle, I sort of assign these wives kind of archetypes according to their traits, more or less individualized, depending on the character in the story, and then grafted them onto the trigrams, the I Ching trigrams that appear on the Korean flag, which appear on the Korean flag, and I feel somewhat confident in my associating these two things. However, not at all on my particular assignments of particular princesses or concubines to particular trigrams. But I did do my best, and they all sort of fit. The 7 fit, and then the 8th was, not sure. So one of them might be misaligned. Anyway, let's have a look at them, shall we? So we'll start at the top, which is fire. Now, fire is, these trigrams, as you may know, are sort of whole sticks or broken sticks, 3, and then they have all different combinations. So fire is whole, broken, whole. Now, this is the scholar, white cap. So fire trigram is associated with brightness and intelligence, so I feel pretty sure of this one. Now, across the trigrams is water, which is broken, whole, broken. And this one I assign to the rebel swallow. And her water trigram is associated with danger, and depth and the abyss. And rebel, in fact, is the assassin in the story. And interestingly, the scholar and the assassin, who are 4 away from each other in the trigrams, are the sort of 2 left over in the groupings of 2. In other words, 2 princesses, 2 maids. You could group those either as the 2 maids together or the princess and her maid and the princess and her maid. The 2 concubines, and then this scholar and the rebel. Right, so then if we take the sort of east-west axis, we have on the one side, broken, whole, thunder, shock and arousal. This is the one that didn't fit super well, and this is blossom, Chung-yi. Although she is the primary wife, and so I think that there's something to do there, connection there with the primariness. Sort of the rising sun and that sort of thing. And then the lake across the way, whole, broken, is about joy and pleasure and very much fits Cloudlet. Cloudlet is one of the concubines. She's all about pleasure and playfulness. She's the one who appears to him as an evil spirit, pretends to appear to him as an evil spirit. There's lots of joke playing and poetry in this story. If we take the cross axes now, we have from the top here wood or wind, which is broken, whole broken, and is all about penetration, gentleness, and this fits Orchid, Princess Orchid, especially if we take gentleness to be genteelness, as she is, of course, genteel, being the princess. And across the way is heaven, which is whole, which is very much creativity and energy. And this fits Moonlight, who is the artiste, who's the musician, concubine. And then we have the other axis, which is broken, which is Earth. And that is devotedness, receptivity. This fits Phoenix, who is all about loyalty. And across the way from that is whole broken, which is Mountain. And this fits Wild Goose, the helper. And again, it's sort of about stability, that one. Now, the thing to know about my reading of these, anyways, is that they don't really go across except pairing wise, except in the case of fire and water. Because heaven and earth are 2 apart. Across from that, mountain and thunder are 1 apart. And then lake and wind and water are 3 apart. So in other words, you have the trigems being, the pairings being 1 apart, sort of adjacent, 2 apart, 3 apart, and then across 4 apart. So the pairings, again, don't square up exactly as neatly as I would have liked. But anyway, that was my best attempt to apply the little I know of Korean culture to this reading of this work. I only lived in Korea for 2 months, and I learned very little except Sanuk, which is fun, is important to them, and that the oldest sons were having a lot of trouble getting wives because the parents go to live with the older sons, and a lot of contemporary Korean women don't want to take their in-laws into their home. No, I'm sure I learned more about Korean than that. But yeah, it's not something I know like China or even Thailand. All right, so the last thing I would say about this is it's written right during Joseon Korea, which is the time of the Qing dynasty, the Manchu dynasty in China, and it's set in China. And they're warring with the Tibetans, and that's where General Yang goes off to be the general and makes his bones. But if we think about it's set in the time of Tang China, as I mentioned earlier, when Tibet was fighting. They were fighting sort of on the Silk Road. Tibet occupied Xi'an at one point for the Turpan Basin area there of the Silk Road. They're fighting Tibet. But if we think about the contemporary time, Joseon time of the writing of Qing dynasty, they're also fighting Tibet. And in this time, the Jurchens became the Manchus, were very much involved in the campaign against the Mongolians because they were known as great fighters and horsemen. And they sort of replaced the Khitans with the Liao Empire in that area of Liaoning, which is right next to Korea. So I think this might be the connection, the Korean Jurchen connection there, sort of the Korean borderland, and then why this is, sort of reads more Chinese. And if that is the case, there may be another interpretation because the Jurchen Manchu had a whole system of the 8 banners. So there's a whole nother 8 possibility there, but I don't know that one well at all, so I couldn't even speculate on that. So there you go, my sort of speculation about the 8 wives of the cloud dream of the 9. It was a fun read. I enjoyed it. And it's on Gutenberg, so it's free. Check it out.